plan, the long-term, comprehensive bipartisan approach that's needed so that we can get this nation back on the right fiscal path, but more importantly, back on the right path to ensure that everybody gets that fair shot and that economic growth that we all seek so much. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Without objection.
Thank you. I'd ask the Speaker if in morning business.
Without objection.
Thank you. We have a lot in front of us as a nation, and my perception is that our country is anxious. And I think they have good reason to be anxious, but it doesn't have anything to do with the debt ceiling and the debt ceiling debate. They should be anxious because we're not listening. We're not paying attention to that anxiety and fear and worry that the country they know and the freedoms and liberties that they have are slipping away from them. And they're slipping away because we're putting America in a debtor's prison. We're slowly losing our ability to make free choices about our future because we failed to be responsible in the past with the money that the American people have given us. We've had a lot of debates and a lot of statements in the last couple of weeks, but no one ever talks about what the real problem is. The real problem is we're spending money on things with good intentions that don't accomplish their purposes. We're spending money that we don't have on things that we don't absolutely need. And the programs that we do have, we fail to oversight to see that they're running both efficiently and effectively. And so consequently, we find ourselves in the midst of an economic downturn with a $1.5 to $1.6 trillion deficit, borrowing $4 billion a day. That means every day and a half we borrow more money than the state of Oklahoma spends in a year. And we hear all the political speeches and all the finger pointing, but we don't hear the real solutions to our problem. And let me explain what I mean about that. Everybody agrees we're going to have to make some cuts, but not everybody's honest about the numbers associated with those cuts. Everybody agrees that we're going to have to tighten our belt, but nobody wants to offer specifically where we tighten our belt. And what I wanted to do today is to offer specific places where the government today, right today, in this body and the one across the Capitol, could make a big difference in the outcome of our future by cutting specific programs this week and next week. Now, that's one rare thing you never hear in Washington. Everybody says you need to cut, but when it gets down to what you talk about, what you cut, nobody wants to come up with any cogent ideas because they don't want to take the political heat, because every program, no matter how well intended and how inefficient, has those people who are going to fight for that program because it's money coming into the coffers for somebody. The other point that I would make is the reason we're anxious and the reason we're worried is that we've abandoned the very principles that our founders gave us that would keep us healthy. And that was the Constitution and its enumerated powers section, which spelled out very succinctly what was our responsibility and what was the state's responsibility. And so we have whole departments. One, for example, would be the Department of Education. That Thomas Jefferson said if you ever had the federal government doing anything on education, you would have to change the Constitution. That's a direct quote of his. Now, he was one of our founders. And he, as well as Madison and Monroe and others, wrote extensively about what their intentions were in the Federalist Papers. And yet we have allowed ourselves to be walked through it like in a dream state into the contention that the Constitution doesn't make any difference. And that it would, in fact, if we paid attention to it, limit our opportunities for the mistakes that we've made. The mistakes we've made, though well-intentioned, is that we can be the answer for every problem in America. We can't. What made our country great was self-reliance, individual freedom and initiative, personal responsibility and accountability. That's what built our country. In a system that said, if in fact you work hard, the opportunity is there for you to gain for you and those you love. And now we have a government that at every place, every decision that is for economic benefit for those individuals that would grab that dream, they're confronted with layers upon layers of bureaucracies and rules and regulations to the point where we're no longer are you presumed innocent by the federal government, you're presumed guilty and you have to prove yourself innocent to the bureaucracy to be able to accomplish that which would set you free, that which would put you ahead, that which would establish you an opportunity to gain the wealth that this country promised. I put forward a week ago last Monday $9 trillion in potential cuts. Now, I know people aren't all going to agree with me, but every one of these cuts is backed up with a government study that says what we're doing in these programs aren't effective. Whether it's the Congressional Research Service, the Inspector Generals, the Government Accountability Office, or OMB, or a Congressional Budget Office. There's over 3,000 footnotes to the 600 pages that are in here that explains very well why we shouldn't be doing this $9 trillion worth of stuff. And I understand that you can have a great debate on whether or not, one, it's our constitutional responsibility. Some of it certainly is when it comes to defense. And number two, you can have a great debate on what you think are priorities, those things that fit within the Constitution that are our responsibility. But you can't debate the facts of the outright waste, the outright fraud, the outright abuse, and the outright duplication of multiple sets of programs. And so all you have to do is, and this is a far from complete list, but here, over the next 10 years, we could save $150 to $200 billion just by eliminating duplicative programs. We have over 100 programs on surface transportation. That's 100 sets of bureaucracies, 100 offices, 100 sets of regulations, 100 sets of rules. And the question we ought to have is, if we have responsibility on surface transportation, why in the world do we have 100 different programs? We have 82 teacher improvement and training programs run by the federal government. Nobody will come down here and answer me why. It's indefensible that we have it. Yet nobody will come down here and join me to eliminate them. We have to be asking the question, do we have good reason to be anxious when we won't do the obvious? We have over 180 economic development programs, but we have 88 economic development programs that we spend $6.8 billion on a year, run by 4 different separate agencies, and not one of them has a study that shows they're effective in developing economic activity. Not one of them. So why would we continue to send money into programs with good intentions that aren't working? And yet we have over 100 of them, 180 of them, 88 within 4 departments. We haven't been able to find all the rest of them, but we know they exist. It's 88 sets of bureaucrats, well-intentioned federal government workers doing what this Congress and Congresses before us have told them to do, but not accomplishing the purpose for which that money, almost $7 billion a year, is sent. We have 80 other separate programs for transportation assistance. You see the little community vehicles are the ones to help those that have a disability. Why do we have 80? Nobody can answer that. It's easy to figure out how they happen. They're well-intentioned. We ought to help people who can't get around. The question that ought to be asked, is that a state responsibility or a federal responsibility? And if it's a federal responsibility, that's debatable, but if it is, why would we have 80? We have 56 different programs run by 7 different agencies to teach Americans financial literacy. You got to ask yourself the question, how can a government that's running a $1.6 trillion deficit, has $14 trillion in debt, our debt to GDP ratio is at 100%, how do we have any authority to teach anybody about financial literacy? That's number one. Number two is, where is that in the Constitution that we're responsible for teaching people financial literacy? That's both a state function, a city function, and a family function. And yet we have 46 programs. Not one of them has a metric to measure whether or not it's effective. Not one of them. Job training. We spend $18.8 billion on job training. This last year, we have 47 different programs. The Government Accounting Office says of those 47 programs, all of them overlap except 3. So based on the study of the people we pay to study this, the most we should have is 4 job training programs. And we're going to spend almost $19 billion on that. And here's what we know. The results can't justify that we're spending the money because the results don't show performance. And yet we're spending $18 billion. We have 20 different programs for homeless assistance and prevention. That's a great role. We all want to help the homeless. We want to do whatever we can to get them in a stable situation, to assist them. The 20 different programs? Why would we do that? Why wouldn't we have one? And why wouldn't only the one program be administered through a state, if in fact it's our role? I happen to think that's the state of Oklahoma's role, to take care of the homeless people in Oklahoma, not the federal government's. But if it is the federal government's role, why would we have 20 programs? Food for the hungry, 18 separate programs, 5 different agencies. 5 different agencies. Again, I'm all for helping those people who need to have food. Why would we have 18 sets of bureaucracies, 18 different sets of rules, 18 different sets? And 2 of these actually work. 16 don't. But we haven't eliminated them. We're still sending the money out the door. Disaster response and preparedness, inside FEMA. Just for disaster response and preparedness, there's 17 programs just inside FEMA. That doesn't count all the disaster response and preparedness programs in all the other government agencies. That's just inside FEMA. You got to ask the question, what are we doing? One, what have we done in the past, and what are we going to do about the problems that are in front of us today? So I would propose that we're off base. And you got a good reason to be anxious about us, because we won't address these problems. When we bring amendments to the floor, they get routinely defeated. Why is that? Is it that we're being dishonest about the facts? Or is it we're protecting the politicians so that they're not attacked by the very people that are benefiting indirectly, not directly, but indirectly from these programs? The bureaucracies and the other quasi-governmental agencies that feed off these programs. So where do you go to start fixing this $1.6 trillion deficit? I had some wonderful employees of the Social Security Administration come to me about 1.5 years ago. And they said, and they wanted to remain anonymous, and I understand why. They said, our disability program's broken. We're giving disability checks to thousands of people every year that are not disabled. So we started looking at it in the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. And here's what we found. If you take veterans totally out of the mix, this doesn't apply to veterans, 1 in 18 people in this country today are collecting a disability check. As a physician, I've done all sorts disability examinations. And what we're finding is about 40% of the people who are on disability aren't disabled. Because the law says this: to be disabled in this country and to receive a check from the rest of us for that disability, there can be no job in the economy that you can do. And yet we have judges that never deny anybody when they come through the disability program. We have people on disability that are working full-time at other jobs. And once you're eligible for disability, 2 years after that, you're eligible for health care. So now we've undermined the system that was designed to help the truly disabled by having thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people collecting a disability check. That means there's not going to be a check for somebody else. The Disability Trust Fund, which we pay into when we work, as well as SSI, which is a separate fund that comes just from your tax dollars, they're belly up. Next year, Social Security Disability Trust Fund runs out of money. And the reason it's running out of money is the Social Security system doesn't go to say, if you were disabled, now you're not, why are you still taking the money back at work? They don't do their job because the leadership in Social Security doesn't demand that the job's being done. And so we have significant ways of improving that to make sure we're helping those people who are truly disabled, but you can't get anybody to help you get that law passed. And to say you want to clean up Social Security disability doesn't mean you don't care about the people that are disabled. It means you care about those that are going to be disabled in the future so that we'll have a dollar to help them when that need arises for them. And so it's just one of those areas that hadn't been looked at in 25 years. The Social Security system, once you're on, you're on. They rarely take anybody off. And the fraud associated with collecting a disability check and working for cash in our economy, and working not for cash, even working full-blown jobs. We had 3 instances where we had the Government Accountability Office film people, who actually, 2 of which actually worked as salaried employees for the federal government that were collecting disability at the same time they were collecting checks from the federal government as a federal employee. And it's not small, it's big. And so there's $60 billion a year that could, over 10 years that we could save just by reforming the Social Security disability system. And that doesn't say you don't want to help people who are disabled. It says you want to do what's the best thing for our country and help those people that are disabled. But we've undermined self-reliance, and we've found people who want to take advantage of our charity and love and care, and so therefore they cheat the system. And we have an incompetent bureaucracy that doesn't go and take them off the system. And we have an incompetent system of jurisprudence within the Social Security Administration that puts people on that should never be on. But the attack comes that you don't care about people if you, in fact, you want to fix this program. Social Security. Everybody says, don't touch Social Security. This Congress and the Congress before it has stolen $2.5 trillion from the money you put into Social Security. They've written a little bitty IOU note there and said, well, when you need the money, we'll pay it back. Well, what does that mean? That means the full faith and credit of this country has to be good enough that when we get ready to pay the $2.5 trillion back, that we can borrow the money at an acceptable interest rate to be able to pay it back. And so what does the Social Security Trustees Administration say we need to do? They say you have to make it sustainable. And oh, by the way, wouldn't it be nice that if the poorest people on Social Security could get a little bump so you could help those that are truly dependent on it and make it sustainable so that we never have to discuss Social Security again, even with the baby boomers, you ought to do that. And so what we've done is design, based on Social Security, on a solvent path over 75 years and likely to achieve such that. We didn't raise anybody's taxes. We helped those most in need the most, and those that were most well off, we said you can't have quite as much. In other words, we means tested it. We said if you're very, very wealthy, you'll eventually get your money out, but not like everybody else will. The people who need it the most, we're going to help the most. It alters the retirement age just to go along with the life expectancy. It doesn't alter it a lot. It alters it 2 years over 60 years. But the fact is, is our life expectancy is far advanced from what it was when we first started Social Security. When we first started, we had almost 50 people working for everybody that's on Social Security. Now we have less than 5. And it's not going to be long, and we're going to have less than 3. It's not sustainable unless we change things. So the point is I understand Social Security is important to people in this country, but if we don't change it in 2035, you're going to get 2/3 of the benefit that you put in. You're not going to get any more than that. So do we fix it now and make it sustainable forever? Or do we just wait until it goes belly up, knowing we can't borrow the $2.5 trillion that we've stolen from it, and let it go belly up? Well, the typical politician says, I don't want to do that because I don't want to take the heat to have to explain that to people who are on Social Security or coming on Social Security. I don't have any problems trying to explain it. It's the right thing for us to do. We've got to fix it. And we can fix it if, in fact, we're going to save our country. That's one of the things that we have to do to make sure that the people who buy our bonds loan us the money. They have to recognize that we've got a salvageable situation. Ignoring Social Security, it's our second biggest thing now, other than health care. It's our second biggest thing. And to ignore it and not fix it says we won't be able to borrow the money for it or anything else. Let me spend a minute just kind of going through a couple of things that we could do next week that would save a lot of money. Not hard, really not controversial. And the question America ought to ask is why haven't we already done it? Let me give you some examples. We ought to quit paying unemployment compensation to millionaires. Do you realize that last year we paid $20 million out in unemployment compensation to people who were making $1 million that year? Is that nuts or what? Unemployment is to help those people who are in need who are unemployed. It's not to give money to people who don't need it because they're unemployed. And yet we spent almost $20 million last year paying people who made $1 million last year unemployment compensation. We could save $1 billion over 10 years by quit making payments to dead people. So, oh, well, you don't make payments to dead people. Yes, we do. $100 million a year. The bureaucracies pay to people who are dead. And a good portion of it we never get back. It's gone. We don't follow it up. We know we could save $5 billion a year minimum, if we just eliminated some of the overlapping programs that I talked about. And that's a very conservative estimate. It's probably more like $25 billion a year. But let's say it's 1/5 of that. $5 billion a year, that's $50 billion. That would keep us from borrowing money for 14 days just by eliminating duplication in government programs. We could eliminate $2 billion over 10 years by eliminating sweetheart contracts and bonuses to contractors who work for the federal government who don't earn their bonuses. Yeah, we do that. We pay bonuses to people who both don't perform and don't perform on time. You wouldn't do it if somebody came in to do something for you on a fixed price with a bonus based on quality and time, and they didn't meet it. You wouldn't pay them the bonus, but your federal government does anyway. We could save $1 billion over 10 years by collecting unpaid taxes owed to us by our own federal employees. Taxes that are owed, they've been adjudicated, there's nothing else going on, it's final, it's set, but we don't take the money out of their pay. So that number's growing every year, the amount of money that they owe. We could save $3.82 billion by reducing the amount of money Congress spends on itself by just 15%. Would it be too much to ask of the Congress to tighten its belt by 15% and save one day's borrowing. No. I turn back on average about $500,000 to $600,000 a year on what is allocated to my Senate office. I don't do that to be able to say I do it. I do it because I don't need to do it, because I know how to run an office efficiently and pay people effectively. But the fact is we have too big a budget, and we need to trim it, and we need to lead by example. We could save $480 million a year just by having HRSA, the Health Resources and Services Administration, pay the right prices for drugs in their programs versus paying too high prices higher than what they contracted for. You know, $500 million doesn't sound like much, but $500 million over 10 years, that's $500 million. That's, you know, that's 1/30th, 1/300th of what our problem is right now in terms of a deficit. We could save $5 billion by eliminating unnecessary government printing. We could do that tomorrow. $5 billion. We could get $15 billion back by getting rid of unnecessary government buildings that we're not using, that are costing us $8 billion a year to maintain, and eliminate them. We have, I can't remember the exact number, I think we have 63,000 facilities right now the federal government owns, 63,000 that are underutilized or not utilized at all. That's 12,000 more than we have 2 years ago, and we're signing new leases for buildings all the time and abandoning the buildings that the government owns. The federal government should dispose of excess properties within 5 years. According to President Obama's own administration, we could save at a minimum $15 billion. Every time we've tried to do this, somebody stops it in the Senate. We could end subsidies for ethanol blending. We voted on it, had 74 senators vote on it, but it didn't happen. That's $2 billion we could save this year if we passed it tomorrow. We could decrease the number of limousines owned by the federal government, save $115 million. We could reduce the federal vehicle fleet, $5.6 billion. The federal government, you won't believe this number, the federal government owns 662,000 cars. 662,000. The average mileage on them is less than 20,000 miles. The fleet has grown by 25%. 5%, and the cost of maintaining and servicing the fleet has grown over 25% in the last 2 years. $4.6 billion a year just maintaining these 600,000 plus cars. The amount of vehicles in our fleet could easily be decreased by 20%. We have all the capability of having GoToMeeting, of having internet, of having live chats, of having telecommunications with visual conferencing. We have all those things available. We don't need the cars we've got. And even the Obama administration agrees that we could do that. We could save $43 billion by decreasing travel by government agencies. Same reasons. We spend $15 billion a year on travel. $15 billion. Anything that isn't mission critical and that could be done through teleconferencing ought to be done. We advertise. The advertising budget for the federal government, $5.6 billion a year. They don't pay for ads, public service ads. This is ads outside of public service ads. $5.6 billion. We spend $1 billion a year hosting government conferences. We could save $4.1 billion. The federal government now owns 685 million acres in the United States. The cost to maintain that we're not funding, so the land is falling in worse disrepair. and we're adding land every year. There's lots of land that we could give up that isn't precious resource, isn't heritage areas, isn't forest, isn't parks, yet we own it. We could save a lot of money by not having so much land and put it back on the tax rolls. We could save $4.1 billion just on our last 2 years' average in terms of slowing down and not buying additional land unless there's a direct necessity for the federal government to have it. We could save $19 billion over 10 years by combining the PXs and exchanges on our military bases. $19 billion just by putting them together. That's what we could save.
The senator has used 30 minutes.
All right, I would ask for 3 additional minutes.
Is there objection?
But I would like to add 3 minutes to my time as well.
Without objection.
No objection. Let me just end with this. It costs us to educate a student on our military bases an average of $51,000 a student. If you look at the locations where all those are located, the cost outside of that is a fourth of that. We could easily do that and pay the communities, but we won't. I'll end with this. We can solve our problems. There's $9 trillion worth of specific savings in this. Don't have to agree with all of them. Don't even have to agree with half of them. If you agreed with a third of them, we'd be well on our way. And the fact is nobody wants to be specific. We need to be specific. Everybody wants to talk in generalities. Nobody wants to make the hard choices. Hard choices is what we're here for. Our time has come to stop living the next 30 years on the backs of our kids. It would be my hope that as we go through this process the next 2 weeks, that we will see a renewal in the spirit of our country that says we're going to live within our means, we're going to reward self-reliance, we're going to reward individual accountability, we're going to reward personal responsibility, and we're going to put the role of the government back to what it should be, both at the federal and state level, and have a commensurate policies that will reflect that will renew our country, that will create jobs, that will create opportunity for the future of our country. And with that, I yield the floor.
Mr. President. Mr. President, thank you very much. I want to say to the senator from Oklahoma that standing up and going through the list of things that, that offer opportunities for saving is very important. And I have a list as well. For example, on my list, we know well over $1 trillion of people who owe money to the United States of America and haven't paid it. If we even got a portion of that over the 10-year period, that's over a 10-year period, we could do this. And I look forward to working with him on this. But tonight we are not facing a 3-week time frame, as my colleague perhaps suggested. We're just facing down a 5-day time frame. And we are facing a man-made crisis here. And by that I have to say a Republican-made crisis on raising the debt ceiling. We have never in the history of this country faced a situation like this. Why do I say this? Because the debt ceiling has been raised 89 times. 89 times. And I could tell you, because I voted for it a number of times and voted no 4 times, yes, on occasion, you vote no on it to send a message, but you don't bring it down. I've never seen anything like this. We're going down a dangerous path. And when I say we have raised the debt ceiling 89 times, that is in the record. 55 times, Mr. President, under Republican presidents, 34 times under Democratic presidents. The debt limit was raised the most times during Ronald Reagan's presidency. During his 8 years, the debt limit was increased by 200%. And this is what President Ronald Reagan said when it was time to raise the debt ceiling, which again, under his presidency, was raised 18 times. He said, "The full consequences of default, or even a serious prospect of default by the United States, are impossible and awesome to contemplate. Denigration of the full faith and credit of the United States would have substantial effects on the domestic financial markets and on the value of the dollar in exchange markets. The nation can ill afford to allow such a result." That was Ronald Reagan in a letter written to Senator Howard Baker in 1983. The debt limit was raised 7 times during the presidency of George W. Bush. And during his 8 years, the debt limit was increased by 90%. Honest to goodness, Mr. President, I don't remember one Republican colleague, and I could be wrong on this, that suggested we don't raise the debt ceiling when George W. Bush was president. And I'll tell you something. We all know when you raise the debt ceiling, it's for debts already incurred. And George W. Bush took a surplus of over $200 billion a year, and he turned it into a deficit. And the reason we have to raise the debt ceiling mostly is because of George W. Bush. I never heard one Republican in those years say, let's bring this down. Let's not raise the debt ceiling. They went on a binge. They put 2 wars on the credit card, Mr. President. They never paid for those wars. They put a tax cut to the richest people in America on that credit card. They didn't care. They put a prescription drug benefit which tied the hands of Medicare and said you can't negotiate for lower drug prices, and instead of being affordable for the government, it became a budget buster. They put that on the credit card. I never heard them say, let's not raise the debt ceiling, even though under their policies, they took a surplus and they turned it into a deficit. They took us off a path where we were about to finish up with our debt, frankly, and added debt as far as the eye could see. I want to say hypocrisy, honestly, and I'm being cautious in the way I express myself here in the Senate. Hypocrisy doesn't even begin to describe what's going on here. It's disingenuous. It's just plain wrong to play politics with this. And we know politics is at play here. Now, I've run for election many times in my career. I think it was 11, 12 times. And I know that you have to pay attention to politics when you're running. We all understand this. We're not naive about it. We're tough on the trail, we know. But there is a time to govern. There is a time to set aside the politics and govern. If ever there was a moment in history, it is now. I have to say, my friend Senator Coburn said, people are anxious in the country. They're anxious in the country, but they're not anxious. He's basically said, he said this specifically, their anxiety has nothing to do with the debt ceiling. I disagree respectfully. Anyone who has a 401k who has seen the stock market go down 400 points is worried. Anyone who gets a Social Security check who fears we could default is worried. Anyone on Medicare is worried. Anyone on veterans disability is worried. Every federal employee is worried. Every federal private contractor in business is worried. Every worker who works for those people they're worried too. Because they know if we don't come together, Mr. President, in a fair compromise, they know very well that we will not be able to pay all of our bills. Now, again, raising the debt ceiling is something you have to do because you've already incurred all of these debts. And I want to talk a little bit about how we got into this unnecessary crisis and how we need to get out of it. We got into it because Republicans said they wouldn't vote for a clean increase in the debt ceiling, as has been done 89 times before. They wanted to extract a pound of flesh and say, we demand that you cut spending now, tie it to this debt ceiling, and that's what we want. And we said, okay, we're ready to talk. As a matter of fact, the Democrats on the Budget Committee put out an excellent plan. It cut not $850 million, as John Boehner's plan does, but $4 trillion. And it protected Social Security and Medicare, and it basically said, we've got a problem, we're going to solve it with $2 trillion in cuts and $2 trillion in revenues. 50-50. Kind of a fair way to approach this, and going to ask the millionaires and the billionaires to pay their fair share. Frankly, that plan, to me, is the ideal plan. It's the fair plan. It gets us on fiscal ground, safe, good, solid fiscal ground, and it says half cuts, half revenues, and we will move forward and look at Medicare and Social Security to make them stronger, not to cut benefits. Now, if I was acting like the Republicans over in the House, I would stand here and say, that's the only plan I'll ever consider. I love that plan. It speaks to my values. It speaks to my state's values. But I understand, in a negotiation, in a situation like this, no side gets everything they want. So now, President Obama says, let's all come together and let's work on a plan. Let's do something big. Let's do something real. And first, Eric Cantor, the Republican whip, marches out of there with his teddy bear and his blanket. And then, a few weeks later, Boehner walks out of there. I just have to say, I watched Speaker Pelosi sit at the White House many times. She sat across from George W. Bush. She did not agree with him. She felt that he had added to the debt. She felt he had added to the deficit. She disagreed with him on protecting millionaires and billionaires. She disagreed with him on the environment. She disagreed with him on the war in Iraq. Nancy Pelosi never stalked out of a meeting. I find it, frankly, appalling that that's what happened. But the President keeps reaching out because he will take the personal hits because this country gave him everything, and he's not going to allow it to fall and to default and to become a deadbeat nation. So, Speaker Boehner said, I'm going to put together my own plan. So he puts together his own plan. Frankly, it hardly has any cuts, comes back very short, $850 million in cuts, doesn't get past this problem that we're facing. He only says for 4, 5, or 6 months he raises the debt. We're going to be back in the soup, back in this mess, back in this chaos, back into the market sell-offs, back into the uncertainty, back in a time when people can't even sleep well at night because Speaker Boehner and his people over there want to keep this thing boiling over. They think somehow it's good for them. I say it's not good for them. But you know what? I don't care if it's good or bad for them. And I don't care if it's good or bad for us. What I care about, what you care about, what we care about is this nation that is everything to us. And we have to stand up for this nation. And that means we have to leave the political labels at the door, and we have to set aside our favorite plan, like I've set aside my favorite plan, and support a real compromise. Well, let me tell you the real compromise that we have before us. It is the Reid approach. It is a real compromise, because what does compromise mean? Nobody gets everything they want. But everybody gets something that they want. What did the Republicans say they wanted? They wanted cuts and no revenues. They got that in the Reid plan. Our leader, Majority Leader Reid, has heard them. And not only does he have cuts, he has twice as many cuts as the Boehner plan. Cuts that hurt a lot of the things a lot of us don't want to hurt. But we understand that we have to give something. So they get that. What do we get? We get certainty. We believe it is very important that we take this issue of the debt ceiling and we get it past the election, past January or February of 2013, and get back to the business of job creation and all the things we need to do. We get that. We get that. We also talked about, on both sides, a committee that would look at the longer-range problems of this deficit and debt, the need to do some reforms, and the need to look at what revenues make sense, and there is a committee in that bill. So this is a true compromise, and I agree. The other thing the Democrats got is no cuts in Social Security and Medicare. But if you really truly look at this, the Reid plan gives the Republicans more than even he gives the Democrats. But it is worth it to us to get certainty in the markets, to protect Social Security and Medicare, to avoid the chaos of the Boehner plan, avoid the danger that we face if our bonds are downgraded. The Boehner plan risks catastrophic default. And we are concerned that if it were to pass, we would again see this economy being held captive. We would again be facing deep cuts in Medicare and Social Security. We would again be facing, all kinds of hostage-taking to protect the millionaires and the billionaires. I believe that no one who loves this country, regardless of political label, should take any action to result in America becoming a deadbeat nation. I'm a first-generation American on my mother's side. My mother never even went to high school because during her time in high school, her father got very ill and she had to go to work. And because I was born in this country, even though we had barely anything, I was able to get an education. I was able to go toe-to-toe with my colleagues who went to the fanciest schools. I remember when I went to Brooklyn College in New York, and they raised the tuition from $9 a semester to $14 a semester. My dad looked at me and said, "Honey, you're getting awfully expensive." I got a college education in this country. I got to the Senate in this country. But I have to say, if we're going into a circumstance where everything we do to fight for the middle class is held hostage to protecting the richest among us, the billionaires, the millionaires, the multinational corporations. If that's the pattern we're getting into here, I fear for this country. And we can't let it happen. And that's why we've been very clear that the Boehner plan just continues this hostage-taking. So the Reid alternative is the true compromise, Mr. President. It gives us substantial cuts in deficits. It gives us a process for more deficit and debt reduction. It gives us certainty in the marketplace. In closing, I would say this. When each of us has won our election, we go up there to the place where you are sitting, Mr. President, and we put our hand on the Bible. And we swear to uphold the Constitution. And I had the honor of serving with Senator Robert Byrd, and most of us here have. And he always carried around this Constitution in his pocket. So today I took a look at Section 4 of the 14th Amendment. And you know what it says? The validity of the public debt of the United States shall not be questioned. Now, I held my hand up and I swore to uphold this Constitution. It says the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law shall not be questioned. So I'm not going to play games with this. And I'm not going to allow the public debt to become a political football. I want to show you, before I leave the floor, just a couple of more charts. This is what Speaker Boehner said just a little bit, July 22nd, 2011. He said, I'm not really interested in a short-term increase in the debt limit. And on May 9th, he said, our economy won't grow as long as we continue to trip it up with short-term gimmicks from Washington. This is what Speaker Boehner said. So what does he give us, Mr. President? A short-term extension of the debt limit, a few months. We can't do that. Even his own words, he says, we hurt the economy. Eric Cantor said to Politico, if we can't make the tough decisions now, why would we be making those tough decisions later? It is my preference that we do this thing one time. Putting off tough decisions is not what people want in this town. And yet, what do? They send us, and we don't know if they'll get the votes to send it, but they plan to send us a short-term deal which leaves this great nation in chaos. You talk to every businessman. They will tell you the worst thing they worry about is uncertainty, and that is the path of uncertainty. Eric Cantor said it. Boehner said it. No short-term deal. They're sending us a short-term deal. And I'll close with the New York Times, the mother of all brainers, they say. If the debt ceiling talks fail, independent voters will see that Democrats were willing to compromise, but Republicans were not. If responsible Republicans don't take control, independents will conclude that Republican fanaticism caused this default. They will conclude that Republicans are not fit to govern, and they will be right. Mr. President, I appeal to the Republican colleagues in this Senate chamber who have shown, working with Senator Durbin, working with Senator Warner, working with others on our side, Senator Conrad, that they are willing to come forward and do something meaningful and put the politics aside. And I hope they will do just that. They will find in Leader Reid someone who understands the art of compromise, who understands that we have to put aside our party labels and do what's right for this nation. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I yield the floor.
Mr.